origins of India's child marriages. Amongst a pandemic, there is another plague in India targeting children. Child marriages have been prevalent in India for several centuries. It had become a norm in society to get underage children betrothed in a matrimonial union. Yet, most of the child marriages were between child brides and much older men. The tradition of child marriages discloses many forms of discrimination present in India, from patriarchal gender inequalities, sexual objectification of women, and denial of human rights. The practice of child marriages has been a part of Indian society for centuries. This custom can even be dated back to medieval times. Despite the development and progression throughout India since, child marriages continue to persist. For many, child marriages are a part of cultural traditions. Traditions and cultural values are important conventions of Indian society. Many rituals have a significant part in the lifestyles of many groups and tribes. Thus, child marriages continue to be the norm for many individuals, commonly underage girls. During and particularly pre-20th century, it was usual to marry under 18 years old. Famous couples who married when they were underage include Mahatma Gandhi and his wife Kasturba. Gandhi was 30 while his wife was a mere 14-year-old. It was further normal for a bride and groom to have a large age gap between them. Often, it is a child bride, married off to a man many years her senior. The age gap, however, was not initially seen as an issue and was accepted throughout history. This practice is still widespread in many places. For instance, Rajasthan, Haryana, and West Bengal are some of the Indian states where child marriages continue to take place frequently, with large age gaps too. Arguably, the want to have a younger wife roots back to ideas desiring a pure, virgin woman. The belief of an unmarried, youthful woman being purer is still the derogatory demand of many. Irrespective of how old the groom is, they continue to want a younger bride, even if it is a child. This increases the longevity of having a youthful wife, hence increasing the sexualization of children. The sexual objectification of women is a key reason behind child marriages. This is due to the sexual control of daughters by male figures of the family. Due to the cultural belief of women holding the honor of the family, male relatives hasten the daughter's marriage to ensure the honor is maintained. This is unfair and discriminatory towards women as it denies them sexual freedom. It further limits their choices and control over their bodies and, most importantly, their life. It is also an example of double standards and gender inequality. Men are not subjected to the same sexual control, nor are they expected to remain chaste. Yet a woman, regardless of age, is not allowed to be as free as the family honor depends on her. This means she has no independence of her own in various aspects of her life. Marriage for many young women in India is a part of patriarchal oppression. Before marriage, a woman belongs to her father, and afterwards she is her husband's property. Thus, she goes from being responsible for her father's honor to her husband's honor. This view is supported through parayadhan, which is a belief held by many families. Parayadhan means someone else's wealth. Therefore, it is believed a daughter, a woman, is someone else's belonging. Again, this is a form of denying a woman her existence as an individual. She is only considered to be the property of others. These demeaning views regarding women have caused the existence of child marriages to be maintained. The continued acceptance of underage girls with much older men has also allowed and encouraged pedophilia. This is dangerous for vulnerable children. Not only are they sexualized, but their innocence is also preyed upon. Therefore, the practice of child marriages only adds to the oppression of women. To protect children and women, in general, laws were enforced to stop child marriages. Since 1929, child marriages in India have been banned. The Child Marriage Restraint Act, also known as the Sharda Act, became a symbol of change. The legal age for marriage for a woman became 18 and 21 for a man. Regardless, India still has over 15 million underage child brides, and the statistic continues to increase. Law enforcement often overlooks or turns a blind eye, despite being aware child marriages continue to take place. The Child Marriage Restraint Act was organized by the women of India, thus becoming the first social reform change caused by women. It also had the support of Gandhi, who argued against child marriages. The law was to bring change to the lives of underage children. Yet, it could not change the fate of many underage children who continued and continue to become victims of child marriages. A few years after the Child Marriage Restraint Act was passed, the rate of underage child brides continued to increase. Bride buying and burdens. Child marriage, despite being illegal in many Indian states, is still evidently widespread in India, even in modern day. Often, it is financial difficulties that lead families to give away their young daughters. They cannot afford to feed their children due to poverty and lack of job opportunities. Other times, society views daughters as burdens, a financial drain on the family. Due to this, daughters are married off, regardless of their age. As a result, child marriages are most common in poverty-stricken families. Due to the view of daughters being a financial burden, they are married off before the sons. The younger the bride, the less her dowry is. Due to this, child marriages become a more affordable option for poorer families. The level of education for women in poorer regions and families is low. This is because of the continued belief in gendered stereotypes. For instance, in many rural parts of India, they believe the son will look after them in old age, while the daughter is the property of another family. Due to this, They invest more money and time in educating their sons rather than their daughters. They believe their sons benefit them more than their daughters, who are deemed as being economic burdens or just an additional mouth to feed. This leads to molki marriages. The custom of molki was traditionally a poor family marrying off their daughter to a wealthy husband. This was for financial security. The husband would pay a sum of money to the bride's family in exchange for her. Molki ensured the daughter lived with stability, as did the members of her maternal home. It was an arrangement which ensured the well-being of all parties involved. It did not deny rights to the bride. Yet, in modern day, molki weddings are considered to be a form of bride buying. What was meant to be the true meaning behind molki weddings has drastically changed. Its initial custom to help impoverished families and ensure young daughters lead stable lives has been removed. Molki weddings now consist of retailing and trading women into a life of exploitation. In turn, this reduces their worth and honor. This is because molki brides are typically subjected to sexual and physical abuse. They are treated as bounded slaves and are forced into prostitution for male family members other than their husbands. They are not given the status of a wife nor respected as they were brought. This is a form of modern-day slavery. The name itself, molki, becomes a slur as they are undermined through references such as molkis. This means brought with money to make them feel inferior. Therefore, the tradition of molki is no less than human trafficking itself. However, because the individual is married, violence and oppression are not taken into consideration. It is as if marriage allows atrocities to be committed. The life of a child bride. Child marriages lead to childhood getting cut short. Once the marriage ritual is complete, so is their childhood. After becoming a wife, the underage bride is expected only to do household duties. The age and vulnerability of child brides are issues which remain ignored. The typical role of the housewife is assumed. However, the difference is they are denied the right to do anything but cook, clean, and serve the family. Lack of rights and lack of freedom. Is this life any different than being a bonded slave? The child bride is reprimanded from continuing or even beginning their education. This decreases their future prospects greatly as it halts their potential progress. For instance, they are also stopped from working unless forced into labor in the family farms. With no job opportunities, no education, and no support, the underage wife is often left with no choice but to live out her fate. For some, domestic abuse quickly becomes a part of their marital life, unquestioned and unchallenged by onlookers. Due to the stereotypical gender expectations of a wife, she is expected to have children. Pregnancy and childbirth are the second leading cause of the death of under-18s. As soon as a girl gets her period, she is deemed appropriate for marriage and motherhood, despite her body only just developing. The fact that she is still a child is dismissed. In turn, the risks of childbirth for the pregnant child are 2. This questions the honor and ownership put on women. How is violence, oppression, and exploitation a form of maintaining honor? According to the NPR.org statistics, approximately 1.5 million underage girls are married off every year. That is 1.5 million victims of child marriages a year in India alone. However, some states in India have ensued incentives to prevent child marriages. For example, in Haryana, where child marriage rates are high, they have begun the scheme Apni Beti, Apna Dan. The scheme, meaning my daughter, my wealth, was introduced to prevent and decrease the rate of child marriages. This scheme gives families a sum of money once their daughter turns 18 and is not married. This helps prevent her from becoming a victim of child marriage. However, some families, despite not wanting to marry off their underage daughters, believed they had no choice. This is due to the lack of resources available to help make development in rural Indian societies. The stagnant stereotypical beliefs and gendered discrimination allow child marriages to be practiced. Child marriages still take place in India, irrespective of laws and shifts in beliefs. Traditional and cultural values stop being points of pride when vulnerable members of the same traditions and cultures become demeaned, oppressed, and exploited. For change to occur, awareness must be raised for victims of child marriages.
DESIblitz.com